Year is 1942 and Paris is in chains. This amazing document was filmed with infinite daring by our newsreel cameraman Gaston Madrou. A slight tug on a hidden cord as he cycled around Paris, and his automatic camera recorded the amazing sights and scenes we are screening today. In the boulevards are offices of the Todt organization, which runs the slave labor camps in Germany, and a cinema proclaiming itself for German soldiers only.
Nazi-occupied Paris is often remembered through grainy propaganda films or dramatic black and white images of German soldiers marching beneath the Eiffel Tower. But rarely do we see the city through the eyes of an ordinary Parisian risking everything to document its harsh reality. That changed when a historian and journalist uncovered a forgotten photo album stuffed with hundreds of forbidden images taken between 1940 and 42. These photos, unlike the carefully staged Nazi records, showed the daily life of a subdued city. Empty streets, subdued civilians, and occupying soldiers who often became the subject of quiet mockery in handwritten captions. This is the story of those forbidden photographs and the man who risked his life to take them. The discovery of a hidden archive. It all began in the summer of 2020 when documentary producer Stéphanie Colaux stumbled across a dusty old photo album at a flea market in the southern French town of Barjac. Colaux was no stranger to sifting through forgotten family albums, but this one was unlike any she had seen. Flipping through the thick pages, she saw Paris under German occupation. German soldiers lounging in front of the Pantin market, patrolling the Richelieu-Drouot metro station, and posing near the Trocadero with the Eiffel Tower looming in the background. Yet these images were far from the familiar Nazi propaganda photos. They captured the city in quiet, unguarded moments, with an intimacy that betrayed their illicit nature. Inside the front cover of the album was an ominous note: "If you find this album, take care of it and have the courage to look at it." To Colaux, it felt like receiving a message in a bottle, a plea from the past to preserve not only the images but the story behind them. And yet, no photographer's name appeared in the album. The anonymity wasn't surprising. During the German occupation, taking unauthorized photographs of public spaces, especially those including German soldiers, was strictly forbidden. Anyone caught with a camera in the wrong place faced imprisonment or worse. Colaux contacted Philippe Broussard, an investigative journalist at Le Monde, hoping to identify the mysterious photographer. Broussard, intrigued by the challenge, immediately joined her quest. He saw in these photographs not just a visual record, but evidence of quiet defiance. Quote, "It was someone who I would describe as kind of a shadow behind the back of the Germans," Broussard later said, and you have to imagine the risk he was taking. As they examined the album, they noticed captions scrawled in block letters on the backs of many photographs. These were more than dry notations of place and time. They dripped with sarcasm, referring to the German soldiers as Fritzes and mocking their inability to navigate the city. One read, quote, "After 10 months of occupation, the Fritzes still can't find their way around Paris." This added a new layer to the images, revealing the photographer's unflinching disdain for the occupiers and their courage in expressing it. A dangerous hobby. The photographs dated from 1940 to 42, the early years of the occupation when German authority over Paris was absolute and resistance was perilous. At the time, outdoor photography without a permit was punishable by imprisonment, and if the content was deemed subversive, the punishment could be death. Yet the album contained 377 such images, spanning familiar landmarks such as Montmartre, Place de la Concorde, and the Champs-Élysées. These weren't snapshots of grandeur or patriotism. They depicted a city transformed by fear and oppression. Julien Blanc, a historian specializing in the Nazi occupation, noted that the photographs stood in stark contrast to the official imagery produced by the Nazis. Quote, "These photos let us see the real city," Blanc observed, "a city emptied by most of its inhabitants, with deserted streets, no cars. They are hard, gray, and sad." In other words, they captured the emotional and physical desolation of a city under siege, offering a counter-narrative to the polished images of order and cooperation that Nazi propaganda aimed to project. As Broussard and Colaux delved deeper, they realized the images could not have been the work of a professional photographer. The framing was imperfect, the lighting inconsistent. Yet this gave the photos an authenticity that polished propaganda could never achieve. This was the work of someone who blended into the background, a ghost in the crowd with a hidden camera. Broussard imagined him as a shadow of the shadows, quietly documenting life as it unfolded, capturing history not for fame but for truth. 2 additional collections of similar photos surfaced during their research. One had been donated to the Musée de la Résistance Nationale in 1999 by a man who discovered them among his late father's belongings. Another belonged to the son of a woman who had worked at Le Printemps, a Parisian department store during the war. The overlap in subject matter, style, and handwritten captions confirmed that these collections came from the same photographer. But even with this expanded archive, their identity remained elusive. Unmasking the Photographer. The search stretched for 4 long years, transforming into a kind of cold case investigation. Broussard compared it to police work, discouraging at times, yet impossible to walk away from. The breakthrough came unexpectedly in the form of an internal newsletter from the 1960s at Le Printemps. An archivist from the store, still one of Paris's iconic shopping landmarks, reached out to Broussard with the discovery. The newsletter featured a familiar photograph of German troops hauling cannons through Paris, a photo Broussard and Colaux had already seen. But this time the caption provided a vital clue: our very own Raoul Minot. It was a revelation. For the first time, the anonymous photographer had a name. Raoul Minot was no professional documentarian, but a longtime employee of Le Printemps. Born in 1897 to a modest family, Minot had been a decorated veteran of World War I. He began his career at the department store as a handkerchief salesman before eventually becoming a manager. Alongside him in this endeavor was his wife, Martha, who also worked at Le Printemps and helped him process the photos in the store's studio. This explained one of the enduring mysteries: how Minot had access to photographic paper during a time of strict wartime rationing. With their combined positions at the store, the couple managed to circumvent shortages and produce their clandestine prints. But it was no mere hobby. Broussard believed it was a deliberate act of resistance. Quote, "There was a small group of people who worked together and knew there was a kind of resistance through the pictures," he said. Their photography was both an archive and an act of defiance. Tragically, the quiet rebellion would not remain hidden forever. In early 1943, an anonymous letter denounced Raoul and Martha to the police. The note, later found by Broussard, accused them of taking and developing forbidden photographs. Police raided their apartment, seizing hundreds of images and a small Kodak Brownie camera, likely the one Raoul concealed under his coat. The couple was arrested, and Raoul was turned over to the Gestapo. A tragic fate. The Gestapo's interrogation led to his deportation to the Buchenwald concentration camp in Germany. From there, his ordeal only worsened. As Allied forces closed in following the Normandy landings, the Nazis forced prisoners on death marches toward Eastern Europe. These brutal treks, often conducted in freezing conditions with little food or water, killed countless deportees. Miraculously, he survived the march. He made it as far as Cham, Germany, where he was admitted to a U.S. military hospital. Sadly, his survival was short-lived. We now know from French archival records Minot died there, his final days far from the city he so bravely documented. In 2024, thanks to Broussard's efforts, Raoul Minot was posthumously recognized by the French government as a member of the resistance who died for France. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think Raoul Minot's photographs add to our understanding of Nazi-occupied Paris? Let us know in the comments section below.